Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Mardiyah show where we are meeting Muslims where they are. I'm your host, Shadeed Muhammad. And today's topic we'll be talking about the theme of this year's Bradford Bazaar, which is a mercy to mankind. And as we know that the Prophet ﷺ, as Allah described him in the Qur'an in many different verses, that he was sent as a mercy. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. That we did not send you except as a mercy to all of mankind. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. That you are to the believers merciful and compassionate. So we can see in many ayats in the Qur'an, the Prophet ﷺ is always described as mercy or merciful. And the religion about Islam itself is a mercy to mankind. So today, inshallah ta'ala, I have with me well-respected imams in the Essex County locality. And today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to touch on the topic of Islam and Muslims being a mercy for mankind. Are we fulfilling our role? Are we fulfilling our responsibility? Are we following in the example or in the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So I'll turn the microphone to my first guest on my left, bi'idhnillah, and allow him to introduce himself and to elaborate on the topic, bi'idhnillah.
Islam, Haqq, Imam of the National Islamic Association, Masjid, and those that have the topic of Islam or Prophet Muhammad as a rahmah or as a mercy to mankind is a very significant topic because today Muslims are not portrayed as being merciful. They're portrayed as people that you should be afraid of. And this is a very unfortunate definition or look at Muslims when in reality Muslims are supposed to be merciful and compassionate. And Allah subhanahu mentioned the ayah that you are ra'uf, that you are compassionate, because ra'fa means compassion. And the Muslims are supposed to be compassionate. Prophet Muhammad was merciful and compassionate to all, to everyone. And this is why everyone can approach the Prophet Muhammad. Even the small kids in the street, when the Prophet walking, he give them salam, and they can run up to him and they can talk to him, and he's the messenger of Allah, and they were not afraid to approach him and talk to him because of how they saw the Prophet Muhammad. And the unique thing about the early companions was that many of them were youth. They were young people. Most of them, most of the reports you get about the life of the Prophet and about Islam comes from those young people. Like the famous Abdullah. There were 5 famous Abdullahs. Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Amr al-As, and so on. There were many of them, and Mu'adh, and Usama, and they were all young people. Many of these, when the Prophet died, they were in their teens. When the Prophet died, many of them were still in their teens or their early 20s. Because they were young people and they grew up with the Prophet ﷺ in Medina, they're able to express Islam. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was kind. Not only was he merciful, and his coming in itself was a mercy. So when we look at humanity was in a state of chaos and confusion. Humanity was lost. Even the established religions of the day had degenerated into a lot of superstitions. Women were oppressed. Women were treated as property. And the society was in a state of corruption. In the Arab society where the Prophet came from, they buried their baby girls alive. So the society was in a state of of total chaos. Even the superpowers of the day, the Romans and the Byzantines, they were in a state of confusion and chaos. So the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, coming at the time that he did was indeed a mercy. For Rasulullah came and taught that the women, we should show kindness to them. They are sister hearts, they're equal to us. We are not lords over them. He gave them rights. They could, rather than being inherited, they could inherit from others. And so the Prophet came as a champion for women's rights. The Prophet came as a champion for the children. When the individual came, he said in a gathering, and the Prophet's grandson came, and he jumped on and he hugged them, and the Prophet kissed them. And that's when he's sitting there, he says, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, I have so many children, I've never kissed one of them yet." The Prophet says, "Can you blame me if Allah takes the rahmah, Allah takes mercy from your heart? You can't blame me for that." Because the Prophet says, "Man la yarham la yurham." The one who is not merciful and compassionate is not deserving of mercy or compassion being shown to them.
And it's a beauty. The beauty in that is that many of us as Muslims, we will raise our hands and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for mercy, and then turn around and show nobody mercy. The hypocrisy in that. That we will raise our hands and make dua and ask Allah, Allahumma khamni, Allah have mercy upon me, yet we have mercy. The point that I'm making is that, the hypocrisy in us asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for mercy, but yet and still we don't have mercy on one another. A husband and wife, a husband may be oppressive to his wife, or vice versa, a wife may be oppressive to her husband, and then at the third of the night you get up and ask Allah for his mercy, but yet and still you don't have mercy upon the person that you are laying next to. We turn to another Imam, respected Imam, scholar of his environment, and in this locality, he's well respected, Imam Abdul Aziz, and we would like to take your perspective on mercy to mankind in this particular era. All the Muslims fulfilling this role of being a mercy to mankind.
وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. As we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in the first place to have mercy on us. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created His servants, He created them to have mercy on them. And He mentioned that in Surah Daud. He said, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ وَجَعَلَ النَّاسَ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ. That if you know that so will He could mean everybody ummatan wahida, meaning upon la ilaha illallah. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ, you will find many people running into different ways than la ilaha illallah way. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحْمَ رَبُّكَ, except those that Allah have mercy upon. وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ, and because of that mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. So He created us to show us mercy. That's why when you look at the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to help and show mercy to mankind. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about his ummah. He said, جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. He made the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a middle nation. Meaning that you walk with balance. We have to have balance. Balance. In your thinking, in your character, in your reaction. Everything in your life you have to have balance. So the entire religion is based on mercy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us so that we can be able to show mercy to one another. In order for us to do that, we have to learn, humble ourselves to learn the character, the akhlaq of this deen, the character of this deen. Sometimes we think that salah, and hajj, and zakat, and siyam only can help us to survive before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But listen to this statement of Imam Abdul Aziz, العبادات الشعائرية لا تقبل إلا إذا صحت العبادات التعاملية. That actions of worship like salah, zakat, hajj, so those actions will not be accepted until we learn how to treat one another, how to behave with one another. So people ask, how is that? They say, because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made another statement. When he asked his Sahaba, money movements, who is bankrupt? They said, the one with no money. He said, no, the bankrupt, the one who will come to Allah on the day of resurrection, will complete salah, complete hajj, complete sawm, complete zakat, and he abused that. He oppressed that one. He backbited that one. He humiliated that one. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began to take people right. And at the end, he ended up with nothing, and he will be thrown in hellfire. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us so that we can be able to learn how to show mercy to one another. When the Sahaba migrated to Habasha in the first place, when Najash, the king of Abyssinia, asked him, what your messenger brought to his people, and who was Jaaber? He began to Jaaber, the Sahabi, Jaaber ibn Abi Talib, he began to describe the character of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how he began to advise and call people to adapt the best character in their life. So this is what we have to learn in Anbiya. All of them came to own people's hearts, not people's necks. And dictators, they came to own people's necks. So for us as Muslims today, we have to work hard to own people's heart. We will not be able to own people's heart until we are kind, mercy.
Jazakallah khair, Abdul Aziz. Very good point. That the leaders of the Muslims, of the Ummah, we should be working towards winning the hearts of the people, not winning the necks of the people, meaning not to be authorities over them. Islam makes us, gives us autonomy. Every Muslim is his own authority, is responsible for his own self. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, that every human being, we have tied his own fate to his neck. You are responsible for your own self. You don't need an authority over you. You are the authority over you. When you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you hasad nafsik. You take account of yourself. You hold yourselves accountable. And when you hold yourself accountable, you don't need anybody else to do it for you. As Umar he said, "Hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu." Hold yourselves accountable before there comes a time when you are held accountable. Wazinu a'malakum qabla an tuhasabu. And weigh your deeds before your deeds are weighed for you. He said, فَإِنَّهُ أَهْوَنَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمِ أَن تُحَاسِبُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. That it is easier for you to hold yourselves accountable today than to wait until tomorrow, meaning Yawm al-Qiyamah, and have someone else hold you accountable. This is the autonomy, the authority that Islam gives to every individual. But we are so accustomed, especially as African Americans, we are so accustomed to somebody having their foot on our neck, so accustomed to somebody directing us and pointing us and telling us what to do and what not to do. We become so accustomed to that we give up the authority that Allah gives us over ourselves, and we tell somebody else, tell me what to do. We don't seek autonomy. When we have people of knowledge in our midst, when we have scholars from amongst us, we don't drain them for the knowledge that they have so that we can become self-sufficient. We teach classes not to string you along, but to empower you and give you the ability to make decisions for yourself in the absence of knowledge, in the absence of scholars, in the absence of knowledge. But we, are so used to being strung along that, we feed and we don't empower. We feed off of the knowledge, off of the information, but we don't empower ourselves to make smarter choices and to make better decisions. So I'm going to go to one of our panelists, a lot younger than some of the other imams here, but I want it from this perspective. Why is it so hard for us as Muslims to be merciful to one another? Because before we can be merciful to non-Muslims, we have to learn how to be merciful to one another. We can't even fathom being merciful to another Muslim if we can't even learn how to be merciful to one another as Muslims. Why is it so hard for us to do that?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You gave me a tough question. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Why can't Muslims be merciful to one another? I think the roots of our problem all exist in the heart. And I think as a young community, very few third generation Muslims were born in this society. Fewer second generation Muslims that were born in this society. Right? And fewer first generation Muslims that were born in this society. So in a lot of ways, Islam hasn't fully manifested itself in our actions and in our hearts. And I think the real problem with our communities is we carry in a lot of things from Jahiliyyah, the culture of Jahiliyyah. The society, it teaches us to be selfish. And it teaches us to hold on to and to cling on to things. And so there has been a power struggle that is a direct reflection of some of the cultures that we come from. And so we can't become a mercy to the society because we haven't truly left that society that we came from. Rather, we have brought that society of misguidance and Jahiliyyah right into Islam, and we have brought our problems from outside of Islam right into the world, into the deep. Right, so we can't get to the level where we understand that the mercy that we're talking about here today is a right. It is a right that the people have over on the Muslims. It is their right that we show them mercy. We always raise this banner. We always say that Islam is the solution. Right? And we recognize that the society, all of these social ills, all of these political ills, all of these economic ills, we recognize that we have the solution as Muslims, but yet we're not actually have the mercy in our hearts that will inspire us and drive us and be the engine and the motivation behind our actions, us going out into the society. Not just to tell people about Islam, but to show people through mercy what Islam is truly about.
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head, as they say. That there's this constant struggle between ego and mercy. Meaning, if I show you mercy, then that means that I'm a coward, or I'm losing something, or I'm invalidating myself in the process of being merciful to you. This is what you'll find goes on between husband and wife, between father and daughter, between mother and son, that if I let you get that off, because that's the term that we use, I'm not going to let you get that off on you. That's the mentality. And that's one of the reasons why we don't know how to be merciful to people people because we think by extending you mercy, I'm doing some type of injustice to myself. And that's an insecurity that we have that has been created because of the environment that we live in. And it reminds me of a story of one of the Salaf. The title of the story is called Jaaber. They came to steal, but we stole him. He came to steal, but we stole him. And it was a narration about a man who broke into one of the scholars' homes to steal, a Sabbath. He came in trying to steal. And when he came into the scholar's house, he saw that there was nothing to steal. The scholars, they lived very simple lives. Zahid, if you will, an ascetic who has divorced the dunya. Right? There's nothing to steal. He broke into his home to steal some merchandise and valuables, and there was nothing to steal. So when the scholar came out and saw the thief there, the thief said to the scholar, "You don't have, I don't have anything for you. I don't have anything for you to take." The thief said that you don't have anything for me to take. So the scholar said, "Well, take the shahada, la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah." And the thief ended up taking shahada, and the sheikh said at the end, "Ja'al yasru fasalaknahu." He came to steal, but we stole him. Meaning, we stole his heart. He came to steal some of my valuables, but he realized I didn't have anything. And the one thing that I did have, I gave it to him, and I won his heart as a result of it. And this should be our relationship with the people that are here. This should be the relationship of the imams and their congregants and their communities. This should be the relationship between the Muslims and the non-Muslims. You come to take something from me, but the only thing I have to give you is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. I have nothing else. That's all I have. And you can take that if you want it. And if you want that, you can have it. But, we have to learn how to let our egos go. You showing mercy to someone doesn't mean that you are invalid, doesn't mean that you have lost anything. And regardless of how society looks at it, society looks at it as, well, you're going to let him get that off of me. You're going to let him get that. Absolutely. Because I don't have an ego to uphold. My honor is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in the hands of anyone else. So it moves me on to my next point, which is how do we learn how to create environments of mercy in our masajid? Because our masajid, unfortunately, they are supposed to be places, sanctuaries, places where the blood and the honor and the dignity of Muslims are sacred. You shouldn't walk into a masjid and have to fear for your life. You shouldn't have to walk into a masjid and be in fear that your character is going to be assassinated. You shouldn't have to walk into a masjid and to leave out feeling like you are less than the Muslim you thought you were. The masjid should be a place of mercy. When we look at the examples of how the Prophet ﷺ extended mercy in the masjid, he was delivering a khutbah, and the Bedouin came in the masjid and he asked the Prophet ﷺ something. The Prophet stopped the khutbah and began to explain to him Islam. A clear example of that is the guy who just tried to walk in front of the camera. It's okay. We're not losing anything. It's okay. So my question to the imams now is, how do we transform the masajid to be environments of peace, compassion, and mercy instead of places of trial and tribulation and fitna as many of the masajid have become?
In terms of the understanding, I think that Muslims have to understand what Islam is built on. Islam is not just built on Iman, but it's built on brotherhood. Because Allah says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. So Iman and Ukhuwa goes together. One breeds the other. And as Muslims, we believe in Allah. And if we do not, as the Prophet said, a brother for another brother, he's your brother. He says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you truly believes. Your Iman is not complete. Your Iman is incomplete. As the scholars explain, he's not negating Iman, he is negating the completeness of the Iman. لا يؤمن أحدكم. Your iman is not complete, or it is incomplete, if you do not love for your brother what you love for yourself. So the concept of brotherhood is not something that we just talk about. Brotherhood is something that we must live. We must feel, I must feel that you are my brother. And you must feel that, because if we are brothers, then we want good for each other. Unfortunately, we as Muslims, we separate ourselves. I'm this kind of Muslim or that kind of Muslim. So we got this different kind of Muslim. The Muslims are one person, one who believes in Allah, surrender to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Do not die except you are a Muslim. وَالَّذِي سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمُ. He is who named you Muslim. And the Muslim is one who surrenders and submit to Allah. So if even in the hostility, your enemy, Allah tells us, in Surah Tawbah, that in Janahul Islami Fajnahulaha. If the enemy looks for reconciliation and refuge, and that you should look out for them, then do that, even though it's your enemy. Because you never know, that person, by coming with you, the person might learn what Islam is and he might become a Muslim. He might become a Muslim. So by allowing him to come close to you. But as was pointed out earlier, that we live in a society that teaches ananiya. It teaches selfishness. So we become very self-centered. We become so self-centered, we are self-opinionated, we self-aggrandize. And so it's all about me, a little about you. And because of this, it difficult to become close. And it's only when we break all those barriers down, we recognize that we are all servants of Allah, we all worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we got one God, we got one Prophet, we got one Qur'an, and that we all worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You might have more knowledge than me, or your Imam might be stronger than mine, but at the end of the day, we all go with
Imam Abdul Aziz, how do we create environments in our masajid that are more inviting, that are centered on mercy and compassion, that draws people to the masjid, that makes people want to come to the masjid, as opposed to the toxic environments that many masajid have become, unfortunately chasing people away from the masajid. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ, that who can be more oppressive and مَنَعَ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ أَن يُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ وَسَعَى فِي إِخْرَاجِهَا, and who can be more oppressive than the one who works towards destroying the masjid.
One is mentioned in the Qur'an, and the other one is mentioned in the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Qur'an, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it clear for us. Say, يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ لَا تَغْلُوا فِي دِينِكُمْ. لَا تَغْلُوا فِي دِينِكُمْ غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ. O people of the book, and all of us know that when Allah is talking to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to people of the book, it means that He wants us to learn lessons. Indirectly, He's talking to Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though the ayah directly is talking to people of the book. That time those people, do not bring ghulu, excessiveness, and exaggeration, and what is the meaning of ghulu? Extremism, in your deen. It's very clear. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his hadith said, إِنَّ هَذَا الدِّينُ يُسْرٌ فَأَوْغِلُوا فِيهِ بِرِفْقٍ. The deen is very easy. Go deep in it with kindness, with softness, kindness. أَوْغِلُوا فِيهِ بِرِفْقٍ. Until Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Mu'adh, when he was leading the salah and reciting long surahs. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're trying to bring fitna. There are people who cannot stand alone. فإن فيهم الضعيف وذو الحاجة. You have weak people and you have people who want to go out and take their businesses. So we have to really begin to teach the Muslims the Tawheed, the Aqidah first. When we finish teaching them the Aqidah, we have to focus on character, akhlaq, tarbiyah. Sheikh Daud was talking about tarbiyah the other day. Education, real education, tarbiyah, akhlaq, character. We have to focus on these things. And as we mentioned before, be in the middle. Be in the middle. Because when there is no tawazu, balance in this deen, then we're going to cause so many problems. This deen is very easy. Prophet Muhammad told his own wife, Aisha radiallahu anha, Aisha, inna Allah rafiqun yuhibbul rifq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kind and easy going with his servants. Be kind, be easy with the servants of Allah. So this is our responsibility as leaders and imams of the masajid, inshallah, in order for the Muslims to be able to practice their deen, inshallah, correctly.
Jazakallah khair. Very good point, and that is that we should, in the masajid, in order for us to create an environment that is one of mercy, one that is inviting, then we have to learn how to not be excessive or extreme. You have to understand that everybody that steps foot into a masjid is coming to the masjid for the same reason, and that is to get salvation. No one is coming to the masjid to say that I'm better than you because we all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. If you are perfect, then why come to the masjid and let everybody know that you're perfect? Don't come to the masjid. Because the vast majority, 99.9%, is you just the 1%. The perfect, right? You that 1% that perfect. While the 99% are there to get salvation, are there to get forgiveness, are there to have the camaraderie of the believers, to strengthen their iman, to uplift their spirits. Right? This is to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what people come to the masjid for. And I think that masajid, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prophesies, that there will come a time when the masjids will become like pubs, hangouts. And this is what many masajid have become. It becomes a place where we congregate, we hang out, fraternize, socialize, and then we become cliques even within the masjid. This group of people looking down on this group, this one looking at this one, this sister. You got all the sisters that wear black, and then you got the group of sisters that come in that wear regular colors, and the group of sisters that wear black don't give salams to the sisters that wear colors, and the sisters that wear niqab don't give salams to the sisters that wear black, and it's just like it goes on, and we're allowing the shaitan, we're allowing the shaitan to play with us. Because the fact of the matter is that every single one of us walked and went to the masjid for the same reason, and that was to get Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. Regardless of where you're at spiritually. Regardless of where you are at. But, the masajid, many of them have become places that are toxic. To the point where you have believers don't even want to go to the masjid in their locality. And there may be only one or two masajid in their environments, in their locality. And because the masajid are so toxic, they don't even want to go to the masjid, so they are forced by necessity to pray in their homes. Or to travel far distances to go to places where they feel more inviting, they feel more comfortable. And I'm not saying that either one of those are correct, but when you are put under those type of circumstances, and those type of situations, you have to do what you believe is best for your iman, best for your faith. So, we have to be conscious and be mindful, as the hadith that Abdul Aziz mentioned about Mu'adh, who was leading the salah and recited Surah Al-Baqarah and Salatul Isha. Can you imagine? And the hadith mentioned the man, when he left the rank, one of the Sahaba was praying behind Mu'adh, and he couldn't stand for Salatul Baqarah in Surah Al-Baqarah and Salatul Isha. I'm sorry. And when he went to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Inna nahnu qawman na'malu bi aydina." We are laborers. We're people, we work with our hands. We work, we labor all day long. And we come to the masjid and Mu'adh is reciting Surah Al-Baqarah for Salatul Isha. And then to make matters worse, when the man left the rank, and they told Mu'adh that the man left the rank, Mu'adh called him a hypocrite. Hajjabin was Su'akila. Blood in my eye, it's like, first you make the salat too long for me to stand, and then I have to leave, and so I forfeit my reward of praying with the Jama'ah. Then when I leave, you call me a hypocrite on top of it. When you look at the hadith of the man who urinated in the masjid, how did the Prophet ﷺ deal with the situation? He told them, the Sahaba, let him finish urinating. And when he finished, he told him to pour the water on him. And he called the man. And notice when the Prophet ﷺ gave advice, he would always pull the person close. He said, Udunuhu, bring him closer to me. And he said to the man that these masajid, these places of worship, they were not built for urination and defecation. They were built for the recitation of Qur'an, for the remembrance of Allah and salat. The other hadith of the man who sneezed in the salat. He sneezed in the salat. And he said, Alhamdulillah. And then another Sahabi said, Yarhamukallah. And the Sahaba began to bang on their knees to make him be quiet. And he started talking in the salat. Why are you banging on your knees? Why are you looking at me? And after the salat was over, the Prophet ﷺ said, Man al-mutakallim. Who's the one that was talking during the salat? And the man said, it was me, O Messenger of Allah. He said that it is not appropriate for you to speak with normal speech other than that which has been legislated for you in the prayer. The man said, Wallahi, the Prophet ﷺ is the best teacher I had ever seen. He didn't insult me. He didn't beat me up. He didn't hit me. Right? He said at the end, Allahumma arhamni wa Muhammad wa la tarham ma'ana ahadan. He said, oh Allah, have mercy on me and Muhammad, and don't have mercy on nobody else. That's what happens when you're merciful to people. They extend the mercy back to you. Prophet ﷺ said, you have made something that is very vast. The mercy of Allah, very restricted. Don't do that. Mercy is for everybody. But you see what happened when the Prophet ﷺ extended the mercy to you. So, in ending, and we'll let Brother Ibrahim take our last issue here, and that is how do we create a more merciful and compassionate environment in our masajid.
Alhamdulillah, I'm not going to take a lot of time, inshallah. The Maghrib is coming in. I know we have the Imams that have to lead their people in mercy, inshallah. But I think one thing that we can all do as individuals is actually embody that example of mercy. You know, for us as people, we do the opposite of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done. Right? Our anger and our wrath has overtaken our mercy. Right? And so when somebody approaches you in this kind of a way, you know, when somebody approaches you and they're not tolerable or they're harsh to the believers, right? When they should actually be merciful to the believers, right? You respond with mercy, right? Be kind, right? Oh, I'm sorry, mashallah, maybe I need to learn a little bit more, right? You show that mercy back, inshallah, and maybe they'll soften up a little bit, you know. And if everybody kind of embodies this characteristic, of course, education is required from the minbar and during the classes, you know, so that we can emphasize these things and really see the right of it that we share, you know, in mercy. But first and foremost, what the individual can do is he can actually himself and herself be the example of mercy.
And that's all we have, inshallah ta'ala. We want to thank everybody for coming out and participating and listening. And stay tuned, inshallah ta'ala, for the next episode of the Mardiyah show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'll say at the time that I made the decision, the man that I met reminded me of Allah, and that's who I wanted to marry, whether he was married or not.
So you didn't really care about the fact that he had another family? That wasn't important?
It was important because I knew the sister.
Okay.
So when I felt that, you know, we could get along and be a family.
Okay.
And I felt that things would work out. That's before I knew anything about polygyny. I was just willing to share a man.
Okay.